We are in the midst of a great transformation in human consciousness. It's unprecedented and it's epic. This transformation is happening no matter what you do. You're not producing it, it's producing you. As our species becomes multisensory, it will often communicate with a non-physical guidance. It's a new understanding, but it's not a new capability. It is a potential, and you must bring it into being. You must create it. The pain of powerlessness. It's the experience of wanting to belong and not belonging, of wanting to love and not feeling lovable. You are not burdened with a destiny. Your soul incarnates parts of itself that it desires to bring into wholeness. What is your ground? Is it the earth school, or is it the soul that you are? Everything that comes to you in your life is a karmic necessity to learn to love. As you create authentic power, you put yourself on a spiritual path. To create authentic power requires 3 simple tools. You are your perceptions. They're not happening to you. You're not having them. You are your perceptions.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And so everything is happening within us?
No, it doesn't mean that at all. There's not a within and a without. And I want to say to your viewers that, and to you also, but I think you know this from our past conversations, I don't expect you to accept anything that I say is so simply because I say it. If you resonate with anything that I say, I suggest you experiment with it in your life. And if you like what it produces, experiment some more. And if you don't like what it produces, let it go. I suggest that you do that with everyone. And it doesn't matter if they have a podcast or a pulpit or a television show, or they've written books, or they've made money, or they're famous, or none of those resonate. If you do, experiment. If you don't resonate, experiment with something else.
Yeah, so for what I'm picking up from this particular point is our world is happening for us and we're engaging with the world via our perceptions, and anything that supports our perceptory reality is for us to engage with to the best of what supports us.
Hmm. I understand what you're trying to say, and it's not what I'm intending to convey.
Yeah.
What I'm intending to convey is that you are your perceptions, and to allow yourself to consider that the outside world is not manipulating or um, arranging for you. Let me put it this way.
Mm.
We are in the midst of a great transformation in human consciousness. It's unprecedented and it's epic. The old consciousness was limited to what the 5 senses could detect. And if something was not able to be seen or heard or tasted or touched or smelled, it was considered to be not real. Fantasy, delusion, illusion, but not real. The understanding of power in this old consciousness is manipulation and control, and the ability to manipulate and control. That is the consciousness that is dying. And in fact, it's dead, although there are still as many or more people with the old consciousness as with the new. But the new consciousness is emerging very fast, within a few generations. The new consciousness is not limited by the 5 senses. In other words, you are not limited in your perception to what can be seen and heard and tasted and touched and smelled and seen. You know, because you are multisensory. You have more than your 5 sensory system, which is a single system designed to detect physical reality. You now have another sensory system. You are multisensory. And so you have direct experience and contact with non-physical reality. In other words, as our species becomes multisensory, it will often, routinely, you might say, although there's nothing routine about it, communicate with non-physical guidance. You will come to speak with your and converse with your non-physical teachers as you speak and converse with one another. This is becoming the defining characteristic of our species. And within another half century, another generation and a half or so, everyone will be multisensory. Now, that doesn't mean they will be authentically powerful. Authentic power, which is the alignment of the personality with the soul, is the new understanding of power that comes with the new consciousness. It's a new understanding, but it's not a new capability. It is a potential, and you must bring it into being. You must create it. And everything that my spiritual partner, Linda Francis, and I have written about, spoken about, presented, created courses about, is how to create authentic power, how to align your personality with your soul.
At this particular time, how do people approach grounding in some of this more like authentic power at this particular moment in time when there seems to be a lot happening around the world when it comes to power and power dynamics? 2025 really seems to be this very interesting time geopolitically around the world.
It is a very interesting time, and it's not only because of the U.S. elections. It is a very interesting time because we are in the midst of the transformation of human consciousness, one that has never happened before. And we are standing with one foot in the old consciousness and one foot in the new. No humans have ever stood in this place before. And we must choose between them continually. The old consciousness with its limitations and the new consciousness with its expansive vistas. That's another way of saying, let me put it this way. You cannot ground yourself into this or anything else. You can become more aware. And you can use your awareness consciously now in ways that you could not when you were experiencing the old consciousness. For example, now you can look at what you are experiencing emotionally. Creating authentic power requires the heart. That means it requires emotions. So to create authentic power requires simple tools, 3 of them: emotional awareness, responsible choice, and consulting intuition. Emotional awareness means being able to experience your emotions somatically in terms of your body. So when you're experiencing an emotion, instead of looking outside of yourself onto the world, look inside yourself. That's a big difference. The old consciousness and people with it, if they have a painful emotion, they think it's caused by the world and what happened in the world. And so they try to change the world to change their painful experience. This is the pursuit of external power, the old power, manipulation and control. And it now produces only violence and destruction. It's not simply obsolete, it is counterproductive to our evolution. So when you look outside, it's a frightened part of your personality wanting to change the world to feel better about itself. When you look inside, you're looking directly at the dynamic that is producing the emotion that you're experiencing and that is painful in this case. And we're calling that a frightened part of your personality, a part that originated in fear, such as anger. jealousy, resentment, competitiveness, resentment, superiority, inferiority, every compulsion, every obsession, every addiction. These are all expressions and experiences of fear, and we all have them. We've always had them. Now we're aware of them in a new way. What is this new way? When you look inside yourself, put your attention in your energy processing centers. In the East, these are called chakras. Your throat area, your chest area, and your solar plexus area. And look for physical sensations. Physical sensations, not good feelings, bad feelings, happy feelings, sad feelings. That will not help you. Those are poetic labels. When you use those labels, you are emotionally illiterate. But when you look at what is occurring in your chakra areas, and I'd suggest to start with your chest area, your throat area, and your solar plexus area. When you look there, look for physical sensations. For example, what is throbbing, or aching, or stinging, or stabbing, or hot, or cold, or constricted, or expanded. And if a frightened part of your personality is active, those physical sensations will all be painful, like most of the ones that I just mentioned. And if you look at the thoughts that this frightened part of your personality is thinking, they'll be judgmental and comparative. For example, I know all of this. I don't even have to be here. Or I'll never understand all this. I'm not that smart. Or he's so stupid. Or I'm so stupid. These are the kind of thoughts that frightened parts of your personality think. And when you experience those thoughts and you experience these physical sensations, when you're able to say, this is an example. I feel a stabbing in the upper right portion of my chest. I feel a constriction across my entire chest. I feel a lump in my throat at the bottom toward my collarbone. It's about the size of maybe a ping pong ball, a little smaller. And it's hard and it's constricted and it hurts. It aches. And then in my solar plexus, I feel a burning across the top of my solar plexus. And the thoughts I'm thinking are, and then you say those thoughts. Now you are emotionally literate. As you develop emotional awareness, you become emotionally literate. And that means you are able to experience that frightened part of your personality in terms of the physical sensations that it's creating in your body and the thoughts that it's thinking. Now, you know exactly what it is you need to challenge. And by challenge, I don't mean go to war with it or surrender to it or embrace it or any of that. I mean move beyond its control. Not try to change it, heal it, make it better, but to experience it fully. That's another way of saying that to create authentic power, it's necessary to experience fully all of your emotions, never suppress or repress or attempt to deny one. Now that you know what a frightened part of your personality is and that's present in you this moment, use your volition, your free will, to put your attention into a loving part of your personality, a time when you were loving or loved and you knew it. We experience these as gratitude or caring or contentment or patience or awe of the universe. These are the loving parts. And the thoughts that they think are the same that I've just described. They think thoughts of gratitude or caring or patience or awe of the universe. When you're putting yourself into that part of your personality, set the intention to speak or act from that part while you're experiencing the frightened part with its painful physical sensations and its judgmental, critical thoughts. This is the moment of creating authentic power. This is where the spiritual rubber meets the road.
Is that the responsible choice piece as well?
Yes, a responsible choice is a choice that creates consequences for which you are willing to assume responsibility. When you act from a loving part of your personality, that energy, that quality of consciousness infuses your deed and your words. And the consequences that creates are constructive and joyful and healthy and expanding. And when you speak or act from fear, you create the opposite. When that quality of consciousness infuses your deeds or your words, the consequences you create are painful, unhealthy, contracted, empty. So the choice is yours to make. This is the creation of authentic power. And you can do it because now that you're multisensory, you can see for yourself by doing what I've described that your personality, is not a single thing that's sometimes happy and sometimes depressed. It has many parts, some originating in fear and some originating in love. And you can recognize which part you're in. When we were 5 sensory, if a frightened part was activated that was angry, you felt angry and you were angry and you acted in anger and you produced the negative, painful consequences of anger. And when you encountered them, you did the same and then produced the same. And when you encountered them, you did the same. The Buddhists call this the wheel of suffering, samsara. It goes round and round and round, lifetime after lifetime, centuries after centuries. We're multisensory now. We can do something about this. We can inject consciousness at the point of choice. And that is creating authentic power.
Inspired. So if you're liking this video, don't forget to give it a like. And I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you that are subscribed to this podcast. Everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to this channel. Thank you so much for your incredible love and your support. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, as I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, and join the movement. Support us in spreading love, positivity, and wisdom around the planet. Thank you so much in advance. That takes it quite deep, Gary. The wheel of samsara and entering consciousness into, the point of choice is, that really, I mean, there's a whole space there to move into consulting intuition, but I'll get there in just a moment.
By
I
the way,
felt
I'm sorry, Amrit.
no,
All of these things you can read about in a book called The Seat of the Soul. And it's also in another book called Universal Human. The Seat of the Soul was one of the first books, and Universal Human was the last. But these can take you through the same things. And you can go to our website. There's courses. You sign up for what we send out, and we send out things like a soul seed. We send an email. It doesn't cost anything. You get it in your inbox, and it's a thought. And then on Wednesdays, we send out something called Wisdom Wednesday. But it's not just a thought. It's maybe a paragraph or two, something more to consider, to resonate with or not. We have a newsletter called Soul Connections. It doesn't cost anything either. So avail yourself of these things. See if they're helpful. They're for you. It's all for you.
I'll put links to all of that in the description below for everybody to access and go deeper for sure. As you were sharing, I couldn't help but reflect on kind of where I've been recently. It was interesting that you brought us back into our body. to really develop emotional literacy. Um, yeah, you asked me before we started the podcast how I'm going, and yeah, I lost my I lost my beloved pet moved on 3 weeks ago, or 2 to 3 weeks ago now, and we just had a really close bond, um, and yeah, I've been reluctant to share about this too much with too many people, because of, yeah, for some people that have pets, it goes one way. For those people that don't have pets, they're like, and but yeah, we had a really close bond, and it was interesting because even through all of that, I was carrying myself through the grief of everything, and I could notice that my posture had changed. Like I was a bit more hunched over, just through this period, and yeah, just the somatic awareness of like, oh yeah, like I still am braving a smiley face, but at the same time, like there's a lot that I am processing, and there is this real kind of, I don't know, I couldn't describe it. It did feel a little bit like the weight of the grief was kind of sitting on my shoulders, if you will, and it was quite the journey that I went on through it. Because even in the last little couple of weeks, because initially I started. It's interesting. I have to say, zooming in, I love the way you describe it, like the frightened parts of your personality. Because, I mean, in other schools, they're quick to label these parts as toxic or shadow, and but there's just, when you call it the frightened part of your personality, there is just so much compassion that you can afford yourself. With that, like it's just, it's so supportive the way that's framed, and just watching the kind of the processing around loss, and also I think also the age that I'm at, it just also reminds you of your own mortality, quite significantly. And so watching kind of the physical response, I went through this process of, okay, and I don't want to be too ashamed to admit, but I started returning to the vice of gluttony. Like it was very much like food was my comfort. Yeah, and this is very much a source of comfort for me. I grew up in an Indian restaurant. My dad was one of Australia's top 10 chefs. It was, I used to come home as a kid and dad would be like, what you want? It was like, like the smorgasbord is, so I'd tap in, and over the years I've realized, every time I miss home, I like to eat something hearty, touch wood. And in this process, I started noticing that, yeah, like this really was like I was just eating and starting to eat and eat a lot more, like of heartier foods, comfort foods, just because there was so much, yeah, just coalescing around the grief, I guess. And the interesting piece for me was the responsible choice piece, because I just spent the last 5 days on a fast. And it was interesting because at some point I could see that this gluttony wasn't really supporting me. It was sort of masking something behind there that was actually interfering with me getting in touch with my emotions on a deeper level. And for some people, I think it's probably a bit too stoic to kind of go, well, then let's remove the vice. But for me, it was kind of this awareness that brought me into this space, which was, okay, I'm going to just see what it's like to sort of move into this space where I just, am not. I actually have put a boundary around the vice and sort of see what comes up and what I feel. And it was a very interesting 5 days. I found myself meditating more than I've ever meditated, and not even like forced into meditation. It was just moments of just, oh, I've got 20 minutes. I think I just need to sit and process the emotional content that's here for me. And it was quite amazing actually, going through that process. I broke fast yesterday. It's not, not lost on me that we're having this conversation today. Um, the serendipity of it all. But yeah, noticing kind of the responsible choice at that point to kind of go, oh, I can continue masking what I'm feeling, or I can actually open myself up to the entire edge and spectrum of what's there without the vice. That felt very much like a response able choice. Um, your reflections on that, in your opinion?
Well, I agree with you. I think it's a beautiful thing and a powerful thing you're doing to realize I wouldn't call it gluttony. That is a judgment. Um, and that comes from another frightened part of your personality, which you
Okay.
can also experience and move beyond the control of. This is simply the behavior of a frightened part of your personality. Um, and all of the frightened parts of your personality look to the external world as a way to mask what they experience. And that's what you did. And in this case, it wasn't drugs or sex or um, gambling, it was food. And a lot of people do that. And the function is just what you said, to mask the pain of powerlessness. Beneath that experience you had with your pet lies a deeper, permanent experience called the pain of powerlessness. I set it aside with that label because it's something that everyone shares, five sensory and multisensory humans alike. It's the experience of wanting to belong and not belonging, of wanting to love and not feeling lovable or capable of loving. You want to be loved and you know that you're not lovable. You feel that if people could see you the way you are inside, they wouldn't want to have anything to do with you. They could see you the way you really are. It's a feeling of being intrinsically flawed, permanently defective, and it's excruciating. When we were five sensory and we experienced the pain of powerlessness, we would reach outward to try to change the world. That's the pursuit of external power, power understood as manipulation and control. But now that we're multisensory, we look inside at the dynamic that's creating that pain. And that's a frightened part of the personality. And instead of attempting to change the world, we set the intention to change ourselves. That's authentic power. And what I've discussed and described is how to create it. In other words, what you were experiencing was not love, the painful parts of it. Love doesn't hurt. It was fear. Need hurts. There was a need for the company of this presence in the Earth School. It was the demand of a frightened part of a personality that the Earth School be the way it wants it to be that you felt, and that is painful, very painful. I experienced that when my life partner of 27 years, Linda Francis, soul went home 2.5 years ago. And I thought, I, I never experienced pain like that when I got home from the hospital. I didn't think I could live through it. I didn't want to, in fact. I asked to die. But that experience was withheld from me. But it changed everything. The next morning, when I was sitting by a pool of water, I realized I don't have a reason for living anymore except to love people. So when you use what is given to you in the Earth School, it will take you where everything in the Earth School is designed to take you, which is to love, toward love. So don't mistake the pain that you felt at the death of this presence. That is the need that you felt but didn't recognize while that presence was in the Earth School. And now that it's not, it's the need that you are feeling for it. And that's the pain. And it's very intense. And now you have recognized that you have used food as an intense, as a way of de-intensifying or letting yourself forget about it for a short while. You use the term gluttony, the product of another frightened part of your personality, but it's simply the behavior chosen in fear. And once you realize that, you realize that you know how to handle this. not to make it go away, but to experience it fully, and then move beyond the control of it. It'll still come. It still comes. Still thinks its thoughts, still hurts. It still has painful physical sensations, those that we were talking about. But they don't penetrate you as much as they did. They begin to roll off you like water off the feathers of a duck. And eventually, that part of your personality begins to lose its control over you. And little by little, that control diminishes until it disappears. And then it's not a frightened part of your personality anymore. It's not a part of your personality anymore. That's creating authentic power. And you've described it beautifully by feeling the pain of a frightened part of your personality, attempting with some understanding that the eating was not going to solve anything, but it made you feel better for a while. But in fact, it was unhealthy. And then when you stopped, that is when your meditation became quite deep and meaningful. And that is because you have chosen at that time when you stopped not to attempt to mask it, but to experience it. And you did experience it. And you are experiencing it. And as you do, you can think as a mystic. Your tradition is mystical. Indian, the Gita, the Mahabharata. Let everything that is flowing through you flow through you, but don't claim it as your own. Let it be. Let it go. Everyone who's done Vipassana meditation knows this. It's a matter of observation and detachment. But the meditation that I described to you when I described creating authentic power is more than mindfulness meditation. It is heartfulness meditation. It also utilizes observation and detachment, but it is intentional. You bring your intentions into the picture consciously. You bring the larger context of non-physical reality and your soul and its voluntary entrance into the earth school, into the context. Mindfulness meditation, Vipassana meditation, is like riding in a self-driving car. You're looking around, seeing what's happening, what's on the right, what's on the left, what's going underneath and overhead, and what's happening. And you let it all just happen. Heartfulness meditation, when you're doing heartfulness meditation, you put yourself in the driver's seat. You decide where the vehicle's going to go, and you drive it. You direct it to the destination that you choose, a destination of love, a destination of wholeness, fullness, meaning, purpose, health, vitality.
This podcast is brought to you by my one-to-one mentorship. The podcast is designed to inspire your evolution onwards, upwards, and inwards. And if you're ready to dive in even deeper and evolve your career, your leadership, and business in a conscious direction, and you believe that alignment to your purpose and your soul's direction is the only way to truly thrive into your highest potential, and right now you can feel that guidance, mentoring, and coaching would be of support, then my one-to-one mentorship coupled with our incredible conscious group masterminds is here for you. Thousands of people have evolved through my mentoring over the last 10 years. It is, after all, my highest calling, and here's what they have to say about how it's transformed their life.
I don't even recognize myself from 3 years ago. I don't recognize myself from a year ago. All of these things that I've been wanting to manifest in my life, I have them now.
This entire year has been a complete transformation.
He is literally just there to put wind in your sails.
He really seems to love his work and his clients. He's going to squeeze all the juice out of life and encourage his clients to do the same.
Amrit definitely delivered more than I expected. I was able to steer it in the right way, the way my soul needed to hear. I think that's what makes him so unique as a coach.
He's wonderful. He really can help to do wonders with your project. Go for it.
So if you're ready to dive in even deeper to take your inspirations and truly evolve, then make your way over to my website at amritsandu.com. I'll put a link in the description below. You don't have to go it alone. There's one-to-one mentoring and an incredible community mastermind of conscious leaders, entrepreneurs, and people transforming their careers and business into full alignment with their soul's highest calling, creating a life that inspires them on the deepest level, living into their greatest impact. Make your way over to my website, amritsandu.com, send me a personal message and let me know why this is right for you right now, and apply to work together. Let's take your business, career, and direction practically to the next level. Link to amritsandu.com in the video description below. I look forward to seeing you there. It does feel like something is shifting, and not just in my awareness, because doing that work of setting aside there's so many questions here, setting aside the frightened part of my personality that wanted to sort of indulge, then moving into this space, I did actually open up to much more multi-sensory perceptions. People have said this, my lost one's gone, but I feel them with me all the time. And I've heard people say that before, but not really actually clicked into something like that. But that actually became like a visceral experience. And as you're referring to these beyond the five senses sensory experiences, I mean, back to what you were saying at the very beginning of the podcast, your perceptions, touch wood, it was quite a profound place to land in, knowing full well that, and maybe that was interesting that I asked that question initially, how do we ground this new awareness in? Because it doesn't feel super grounded, but it is part of my perceptory awareness.
What is your ground? Is it the earth school, or is it the soul that you are? The earth school is an opportunity to distinguish within yourself those parts of you that are attached to the earth and those parts of you that belong to your soul.
That's really deep, Gary. That's really deep. That's really, really deep. Yeah. So the earth school remains an opportunity, whereas your hallowed ground deep within you actually rests within your soul.
There's no right choice. There's no wrong choice. You can choose love and create the consequences of choosing and acting with love. In other words, whenever you act or speak, it's not your words or your actions that create consequences. It's the intention that you hold when you speak or you act, or you don't speak or you don't act. The intention is what creates. And there's no right intention or wrong intention. There are simply different consequences that are created. The universe doesn't see in terms of right or wrong, good or bad. It sees in terms of cause and effect. And if you participate in a cause, you will participate in the effect. In the East, that's called karma. And what it means is that everything that comes to you in your life is a karmic necessity. It's given to you to learn from, to learn to love, not given to you by a divinity or by someone who knows better or something that knows better or something or intelligence that's more compassionate. It's given to you by you. You created it and you are experiencing it. And in this way, we learn compassion, the power of choice, the responsibility we have for what we choose. And we are creating our lives with our choices, moment by moment.
And the empowered choice I've been left with in this situation is to, rather than mourn the years ahead that I didn't get, is more to focus on the incredible 10 years I did have, and just find, like you were saying earlier, the appreciation, the gratitude, the love for the time spent together, And, the lessons that I learned through having such a great companion through those times, you know, um, that's been really profound too. And it does take active, because you use the word will quite a lot. It does take willpower to actually focus on one over the other when both are actually equally as present.
That's true. That's true. And you will experience, if you have not already, which you may have, that only you can make that choice, that there's nothing at that point of choice that leans you in one direction or leans you in the other, leans you into a world of sorrow and loss and grief or anger or frustration, and the other that leads you into a world of appreciation and gratitude and fulfillment. It's yours to make. The power is in your hands. No reward, no punishment. I first experienced that when I was moving into, through, and out the other side of my addiction to sex. That moment came when I realized the power is in my hands. I look around me. There's no one there. Only I. What am I going to choose? Without reward, without punishment. It's my choice. It's a place of power, pure power. It didn't feel that way. It felt terrifying. I felt terrified. And also, I want to say, before we move too far forward, that what you're doing, I feel, is wise and compassionate for yourself. The choice you said to appreciate what you have gained in 10 years and what you have experienced, instead of the choice to grieve what you might have experienced in the next 10 years. You're not given the frightened parts of your personality to submerge yourself into, but to learn from. That's the meaning of them, so that you can learn from what you've done through what you have created and create differently. And you are.
Thank you. There's a body of work in here I wanted to touch base with you on today, which is because we're discussing choice quite richly. And you've mentioned the frightened part of my personality. And even I used the word gluttony, which you pointed out really neatly. And it was like, there's a judgment in there. And I wanted to talk to you today about judgment and discernment. And is there a difference between the two, or is one just masquerading as the other? Because I think sometimes we need a little bit of discernment to be able to make a choice, one way or the other for the will. I know it's a little bit semantics in here, but I think actually as we zoom in and try to do the inner work, there's a whole body of work that's waiting for us. In your opinion, judgment, discernment, and choice, how does that all work out together?
Discernment is discernment. Discernment with judgment is attachment, is pain, is fear. You can see that somebody, for example, may be acting without integrity, perhaps has betrayed you. And that's what's happening. If you see it, you discern it, and you can respond with love instead of react with fear. If you see it and you judge it, how can he do that? What kind of a person is he? He says he's a Hindu. He says he's a Jew. He says he's a Christian. No, they don't act like that, but he does. He's going to hell. That is judgment. Discernment is simply saying that he said one thing and did another. You do not need to be the judge and jury of all that you perceive and experience. You do not know enough to do that. When you see somebody behaving in a certain way, you do not know what forces are coming to conclusion in that moment. When you judge that, you create negative karma for yourself, painful karma.
Hey there, Inspired Soul. If you're liking this video, don't forget to give it a like and a thumbs up. Now, join in on the conversation. I'd love to hear from you. What are you taking away from Gary's insights on the new human, the new consciousness, the new universal human that's being birthed in this conversation today? I mean, it was huge for me when he provided that incredible reminder around where is the ground of your being, here on the planet Earth or deep within your soul. What are you taking away from today's conversation? Leave those comments in the comments below. And also, if you've got questions for Gary, he's been on the podcast 3 times before. This is the 4th time round. He's likely to be back on again. Leave your questions for Gary below, and I could ask them the next time he's on the Inspired Evolution. That's profound. So we move through emotional awareness, responsible choice, to then consulting intuition as this 3rd hallmark and pillar.
Intuition is the voice of the non-physical world. And you have access to the wisdom and compassion that it makes available to you because you're multisensory. And you can ask questions to your non-physical teachers or guides. One way that you can ask is, if you're not certain before you speak or act what your intention is, ask yourself, what is my intention? And you will not be alone in the answer. You will see. It may take you a day. You may have to walk by a stream. You may have to go into town, not to distract yourself, but the answer will come. Just assume that the moment you're asking, the answer is pouring in. And I wanted to add something. I told you about how Linda, my beloved soul, went home, and the gift that that was to me. It transformed my life in ways that happened then, were permanent then, are still happening now, and many things more that have deepened that and expanded that. At first, because I thought I was delusional, I heard Linda speaking with me, but I thought the pain is so great I must be compensating and making this up. But I'm not. I wasn't. But I didn't believe it at first. And then after a while, I began to believe it. In fact, at one time, I heard Linda say, I am with you, beloved. Understand that. Accept that. Believe that. Act on that. Act with that. And I realized because of that and others that I wasn't making this up. If our situation were reversed, if I were a non-physical reality, seeing my beloved suffering and grief and loss and terrible pain, would I want that? No. I ask Linda, what can I do to support you? You're a soul. I don't know what a soul is. It's much more expansive and powerful than I am, but what can I do? And she told me, she said, be loving, be engaged, be joyful. And so I strive for that. The thing I wanted to share is sometimes I still miss her. A frightened part of my personality still misses her, even while I'm speaking with her. Is that comprehensible? Totally not. But it's experience. And I've reached a point which you will reach also, and I'm speaking not only to you, but to the people who are listening to us, when your intellect will take you no further. And you are on a path now. And it's taking you it's a path toward and to love. Authentic power is love. That's what you're learning in the Earth School. Creating authentic power is your discipline.
Yeah, that path beyond the intellect is definitely present for me right now, because the psyche at its edge is very tender. It is hurting. It is in pain. And yet the heart cracks open into this space, which is very much what you reflected before. I've had this thought a couple of times, is what would she want for me? And she always just wanted me to be happy, running around, doing my thing, with her. And it's just this really, and the mind cannot comprehend that. The mind can only really comprehend the loss, whereas the heart really can feel into her sentiments for me and learn to honor and cherish them and continue them on. Yeah.
The mind doesn't feel pain. By that I'm saying intellect. Intellect is designed to work with co-create, you might say, with the five senses. It takes data that the five senses provide and analyzes it and deduces and concludes the most effective ways to pursue external power and presents them to the intellect. The intellect cannot grasp multisensory perception. It cannot understand it, convey it, or express it. So the time will come on this path, which is creating authentic power, as you move into multisensory perception on using a larger you now, you and all who are listening to us, when your intellect will not function. It tries to function, and it's painful to see how inadequate it is. And there will come a time when I will suggest to you that at that time, it is a time for the cessation of understanding and to focus instead on the giving and sharing of joy. I had to choose between my intellect, which is not a bad one. I wrote a book on quantum physics. I won the American Book Award for Science. I graduated from Harvard. But the intellect simply is not designed to go where I am. It's not designed to go where you are and where we are all going. That's multisensory perception. And it's taking us to yet another domain. Even as multisensory perception is coming into human consciousness, another begins to become visible. The light of the new dawn makes it visible. That's the universal human. But let us stay now with what is in experience. When you experience loss and pain, that is the experience of a frightened part of your personality, and you know how to handle that now. Use your emotional awareness. Recognize that frightened part of your personality in terms of physical sensations in your energy processing centers, the thoughts that it's thinking. And while you are, use your volition to put yourself into a time when you were loved or loving or both, and you knew it. And then choose to act and live from that part of your personality while you are experiencing the frightened part with its painful physical sensations and its judgmental thoughts. That's the moment of creating authentic power. And the goal is not to change that part, but to move beyond its control, to experience it fully and move beyond its control, to let it come and move beyond its control and live beyond its control. And eventually, its control will disappear.
Which is somewhat counterintuitive for the psyche, because the psyche sort of defends itself from certain experiences to experience them fully. But interestingly, and this is going to be my question, one of my questions, is that experiencing things the way that I have done, touch wood, not that I've mastered anything, but just reflecting on my journey, inviting myself into deeper levels of experiencing what's present, the emotional content of it all, there is this freedom. There is this freedom, but it's a very counterintuitive for the mind freedom, because the mind kind of tries to protect you from certain things. but moving into it actually does free you. But it's not, yeah. And maybe that's the new universal, maybe that's the shift that we're currently going through, this awareness.
Yes, 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 it is. That's where the shift is taking us. The shift is the expansion of perception beyond the five senses and the new understanding of power as alignment of the personality with the soul. And as you create authentic power, you put yourself on a spiritual path. And this is where the path is taking you, to a consciousness beyond the one that is you now. And it's all happening now. There's no other time that you can make a choice, and there never will be. And every choice you have made in the past, or what you are calling the past, has not been the past as you lived it. It's now. It's the same now that is now.
Gary, I've got a slightly new agey sort of question for you. It seems like as we're shifting at this particular moment, just because I serve quite a few people through coaching and mentoring, people's relationships with their memory is shifting quite drastically, it seems. People used to be able to recall things quite linearly in a linear fashion, but now memories seem to be a bit more, oh yeah, if I'm reflected to recall upon a certain point way back then, I can remember it, but it's almost like random access memories rather than like a linear full train of thought of memories. And part of me just hypothesizes that potentially with the shift that's happening at present, the past can be quite an anchor, and it doesn't really exist in many ways, right? And so potentially even consciousness is evolving its relationship with the way memory is being formed in the human dynamic. Like, am I too many hypotheses in, or what are your thoughts on that?
It sounded a little intellectual and wordy.
What? Me? Never.
There
Did you
is no
understand?
there
Yeah,
is no
go.
past, and that's what's confusing you. And memory is not memory. Memory, because there's not a past, it is. You think perhaps that you're remembering something from the past. It's still living. It's still here right now. That's why when you remember, put the members of it together again now, its hands, its arms, its feet, remember it. It's here. It's not something from the past. You're just looking at something that's still happening. That's why it's so clear. Also why it's so painful, because, or it can be, because it activates frightened parts of your personality. All of that happens in the present. There is nothing else but the present, and you are the present. That's where we started our talk.
Gary, are you hopeful for us as a collective in terms of learning these new approaches to through navigating our way with the Earth School as souls? Um, yeah, do you think, because you do refer to the shift that's currently going on right now, do you harbor hope that we will make it through? Is there any we won't make it through? Is there any of that? Like we will definitely make it through?
You don't have to do anything. It's happening. This transformation is happening no matter what you do. You're not producing it. It's producing you. Now, what are you going to do with it? Before, when we were 5th century, birth was marvelous and mysterious. Death was unknowable and terrifying. Now we see that birth is the entrance, the voluntary entrance of a soul into the earth school, or a portion of a soul. And that death is the return home to non-physical reality of the soul. That span between your birthday and your death day, your incarnation and the soul's release of the incarnation is your experience of the earth school. What are you going to do with it? I suggest that you use that span to align your personality with your soul. The choice is yours. I suggest that you use that span to experiment within yourself, distinguishing love from fear so that you can choose love, and then experiment with choosing love, even while fear demands expression and action and judges you as foolish. These are our choices. They've always been our choices. Now we know it.
It brings a lot of free will to the conversation around life, the will to choose how we show up. Gary, do you think the times of when we come to the Earth School and leave the Earth School are sort of preordained, in your opinion?
No. No. You are not burdened with a destiny. Your soul incarnates parts of itself that it desires to bring into wholeness, put it that way. And that can happen through the choices of its personalities in the Earth School. And its personalities each have free will. No one knows what's going to happen in the Earth School. It is not known what is going to happen in the Earth School prior to an incarnation. Your non-physical teachers don't know what you're going to choose tomorrow. You don't know what you're going to choose tomorrow. There is no correct path or higher road waiting to meet you. And when you're there, you can climb onto it and go in a direction you want to go that will take you where you want to go. You create it.
Can I double click on the soul incarnates to bring parts into wholeness? What did you mean by that?
I didn't mean to say that, if that's what I said. I'll say this, hopefully in clarification. We are accustomed to looking at things in terms of parts and relationships between them. There are no such things, and there never have been. There is one, and all is that. And you are that. Almost sounds Hindu, doesn't it?
I'm landing in it, though. I'm landing in it. Yeah.
Thou art that.
I am that. Yeah.
The West, we say, God said or divinity said. We don't say it. Christians say it, but it's dogma. Be still and know that I am. And we project onto those words an entity, powerful beyond all others, in pursuit of external power, manipulative, controlling, angry, unforgiving, sometimes forgiving, also male, usually older, has a white beard and white hair. The Bible says that this thing created us in its image. And I suggest that we created our divinity in our image. So there are no parts that you can put together. There never have been. And if you look at those words, be still and know that I am, these are words to say to yourself, not to listen as someone else says them to you. You take these words and apply them to yourself.
Be still. and I am. Gary, at this time in the collective, do you feel that people's frightened parts of their personalities are being more shooken up, potentially more than ever before to some degree, so that we can potentially clear through or bring more awareness to these frightened parts so that we can learn to work through them in a different way so that this greater awareness starts to emerge? Is that happening now?
The idea is not to work through frightened parts, but to move beyond their control. The Earth School will always present you frightened parts of your personality. And as you begin to see them for what they are, the universe graciously drawing your attention to a part of your personality that you must experience intimately and move beyond the control of in order to give the gifts you were born to give. That's where your joy lies, meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. And you will say to the Earth School, when something painful, as what you are experiencing now and as what I experienced when Linda's soul went home, and what all of us experience each time a frightened part of our personality is frustrated, which is continually, you will say, thank you, thank you. It's bringing this part of my personality, this part of your personality to your attention in a way that you can't ignore because it hurts. There's nothing to work through. There's things to learn. There's new experiences to encounter. There's nothing to master, put it that way. It's like the sun coming up in the morning after a dark and cold night, and it brings light and warmth. How can you master light and warmth? Enjoy them. Soak them up. Let them illuminate where you are so that you won't stumble in darkness. I have the feeling that maybe this is a good time to pause and let the richness that we've experienced be appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a joy to talk with you, Amrit. It always is.
Oh, Gary, I mean, I could thank you for today's conversation. And yet, honestly, just thank you so much again and again for how generously you share yourself. And just, I mean, it rarely feels like a conversation. It always feels like a sharing and a transmission and just a really rich space here. So thank you so much for you. Really grateful for you, Gary.
You are welcome. I feel this is the best podcast yet, and it's because of your sharing and your openness and your sensitivity to what you're feeling in the moment.
You, inspired soul, you made it through to the end of another incredible episode. Thank you so much for your inspirations to evolve. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your side. To all of you that are subscribed to the channel, thank you so much for your incredible love and your support. Seriously, like I say, everything you see around here is powered and empowered by your subscription to the channel. Thank you so much. To all of you that haven't yet subscribed, it's free to do so and very easy to do so. The button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution as I'm saying the word subscribe. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon. Episodes like this coming out twice a week to support your evolution onwards, upwards, and inwards. So go and subscribe. And if you like this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and a like as well. It helps share the video around the internet every time you do that. Now on screen, to continue your journey further, other episodes with Gary, I'm going to link them on screen to go even deeper. And you can take your pick, make your click, and I'll see you in the next one. Go on, I'll see you there.